In the previous two sessions, we developed this use case specification for a lift control system. Now let's refine this further, version 3. And here we are not going to assume that the passenger is on the ground floor, that the lift is on the top floor. It could be anywhere. The passenger wants to go to any floor in the, not necessarily. The door is closed on the top floor, not necessarily. And any request other than this passenger is only in the direction in which, not necessary. So that means that any passenger or lift user from any of the floors will be able to call the lift. Okay, so precondition is none. So let's start off. This use case starts when a passenger presses the up or down floor button. The system stores the request. Let's say this is going to be stored as a list. The system tells the lift to start. Okay, once it has started, it is moving. Just before reaching a floor, the floor sensor triggers. The system updates the status of the lift to reflect the current floor. The system checks whether the current floor has been requested. Yes, no. Here we are assuming that yes, it has been requested. That means there is going to be a situation where the current floor has not been requested. So we are going to go into alternate flow and specify a alternate flow. Current floor not requested. So what happens if it is no? It will not stop the lift. The system tells the door to open. No, not required. The system removes the request. It is not there in the request list, so no need to remove it. The passenger selects the, so the whole thing is not required. It continues to move. So what happens? It continues at 4A. So here, where is the alternate flow? Not requested. So I'll say the use case continues at 4A. So from here it will go back here. So that means till it reaches a floor which has been requested, it will keep going forward. Okay. So that was one. Now let's go to the next step. The system tells the lift to stop. The system tells the door to open. The system removes the request. The passenger selects the floor. The system tells the door to close. The system tells the lift to start. Now, when will the system tell the door to close? Or when it is, when will it tell it to close? Either we press the button or automatically the door will close, right? That means if the door has to close automatically, something additional must happen, right? So here the system tells the door to open. Let's make it as a group of steps. The system tells the door to open, but before that, the system resets the door open timer, or instead of saying resets, system starts the door open timer. The system tells the door to open. We can either write it like this, or after opening it also we can do this. This makes better. Okay, so which means at some point this door open timer will get triggered. So what shall we write here? The system tells the door to close. Okay, now when it comes to alternate flow, the first step should always be from where is it coming, because as of now we don't know from where this flow is coming. This is actually coming when This answer is no. So this is 4C. So here we will say this flow starts when the response is no for current flow requested, 4C. Similarly here, this flow starts when the open door timer times out at which point? At here at 9, step number 9. So here we can remove this step, tell the door to close, and put it in the, or we can leave it here and remove this, because then there will be duplicate instructions for closing the door. So the system tells the door to open, the system starts the door open timer. At some point while the timer is running, the system removes the request, the passenger gets out, the passenger selects the door she wants to go to, the system tells the door to close. So when it triggers, we can actually repeat this step, or we can say the flow continues at step number 10, right? Okay, but before that it has to close the door, na? So 9, just try to follow the sequence. Then what happens? Let's again go back here. The system tells the lift to start, moving lift. And again, if you notice, the same thing will repeat. This open door will get repeated here as well. This would be after this open door. The system starts the door open timer. This also will be here. So the point is, once the door open timer has been started, either the user will press a button or he will not. If he doesn't, then automatically after some time the door will close. So here the flow seems to be a little bit off. The system starts the door open timer, door is open throughout this, here it is closing. So this flow starts when the response, no, here what we will do is the flow starts when the open door timer times out at 9. 9 is what the system tells the door to close. No, not at 9, at 8. The flow continues at 9. 9 is the system tells the door to close. Okay, the system tells the lift to start, moving lift. So again, same process repeats when it comes to opening the door. The system tells the door to open. The passenger gets out into the lift or into the lift, the system tells the door to close. Now, one more thing that we have to take care of is, after the system removes the request, what should the system do? Remember, the passenger gets out or into the lift, it may happen or it may not happen. There may not be any person getting out or getting into the lift, right? So here tells the door to close, the system tells the lift to start. So here the condition is that, let's put it like this, more pending requests are there. So that means here we are going to have more pending requests. No, there are no more pending requests. In which case what happens? This flow starts at, let's say, tell the door to close at 15, at 15 or 9. So at 15 or 9, I should say at 9 or 15, when there are no pending requests. So at that time, what happens? We can say the use case ends. What will happen? This flow continues at 16. The use case continues at 16. So whether it is at 9 or at 15, it directly jumps to 16. So that was for handling multiple requests. Then what happens? Do we have to take care of anything else? This is requests. More pending requests equal to yes. Now let's take some more additional aspects, additional alternate flows. Here, last floor reached. Now last floor, when I say, let me make it as, last extreme floor has been reached. That means either the topmost floor or the bottommost floor. This flow start at which point? The system tells the lift to start. This one, the system tells the door to close. So at this point, the passenger gets out, tells the door to close, and the system tells the lift to start at 10. So at 10, when the extreme floor has been reached in either direction, either the topmost or the bottommost. So if that is the case, what should happen? The system sets the direction of the, or we can say changes the direction of the lift. Okay, now let's add some more additional features. The load sensor detects overload situation. And in that case, what happens? Again, when will it sense that it is overloaded? When the passengers are moving into or out of the lift, right? Generally moving into the lift. So this flow starts at which points? Wherever the people are getting into. So 7 and 14. At 7 or 14, when the load sensor senses overload, then what happens or gets triggered? We can say that also. The point is that trigger is sent to the system. So what should the system do now? The system disables the lift temporarily. Basically, this is temporarily. Okay. The system sounds a buzzer. The system stops the timer. Which timer? Door open timer. Yes. Or we can say resets the door open timer. And if the door has been closed, the system tells the door to open. So this flow starts at 7 or 14 when the people are moving in out. When the load sensor senses overload, the system disables the lift. The system sounds a buzzer. The system resets the door open timer. The system tells the door to open. Or let's say it doesn't actually, because the door is still open. So while it is open itself, that load sensor is triggering. So which means it doesn't have to do this. So that was one. Another thing is the lift user or the passenger presses the open door button. So what will happen? The system opens the door. So as part of that, what will it do? Here we have already done this. So we can take this entire thing, or we can ask it to restart at 12. Now, from where does it come? When people are moving in and out. So here, passenger gets out or into the lift. At that time, somebody inside is pressing the open door. So it will continue back at 5. Or, because here also the same situation is. So at 14 and 7. So let's put one more step before this. This flow starts at 7 or 14 when the passenger presses the door open button. The system resets the open door timer. The system tells the door to open. Okay, let's take one more. Emergency stop. The passenger presses the emergency button, stop button. Now what should happen? Again, we need to visualize this. If that red button is pressed, what should happen? We can keep it very simple and say the system stops the lift immediately. The system sounds the buzzer. That should keep it. Or we could also, think of it in these terms. Instead of stopping immediately, it goes to the nearest floor and stops and opens the door. But we don't know what type of emergency it is. So it's better to stop the lift immediately. Okay. And then what happens? Then let's say the use case ends. Or no, not use case ends. We can say, we don't know what to be done. So let's leave it as TBD. Close door. This flow starts at 7 or 14 when the passenger presses the close door button, right? What happens then? The system tells the door to close. And where does the flow continue? So let's look at 7 and it door to close. So we can, you know, the system tells the door to close. So we can directly say go to 9. So instead of repeating this step, we can say the flow continues at 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 10. At 10 or in case of 14, also we can 10. So we can stop at this, right? So here we have one TPD here to be done. So we have got this flow. Now let's look at briefly the naming of these alternate flows. The current flow not requested. Okay, perfectly fine. Here we have passenger presses the open door button, right? So let's name it as open door. Load sensor detects overload. Let us say overload. Extreme flow reached. Let's say last floor in either direction. More pending requests. Let's just say pending requests and let's remove this no. Door open timer gets triggered. Okay. Now if you notice this open door gets triggered, that means it is closing the door. Next it has to close the door. So here open door, this is okay. Open door, door open timer triggered. And here we have okay. So here let's say instead of saying door open trigger, what do we do? Okay, door open timer. Let's not say get triggered. Let's name the alternate flow as door open timer. Okay, so naming has been done. What else? If you look at this flows, looks as if steps are being repeated twice. Can we combine them into a single one? Can we simplify this flow? Because here we have one and the same thing being repeated here. So let's see it in our next version. For the moment, I think that's enough. Bye.